Welcome back to another episode of the Carbon Cardboard Podcast, covering the Formula One card hobby. I'm your host, Brian, Q3 Cards, joined as always with my good friend, Scott from the P1 Castle.
What's going on? Glad to be back. First race down in a triple header. So we've got 2 more races coming up. Great time to be alive.
Indy 500 this weekend as well.
That's right. A little Schwartzman action.
Schwartz, the power of the
Ooh.
Schwartz on
Gotta
pole.
crank up the all other F2 spot in 2020.
Yeah, I don't know. We probably won't cover Indy 500. I know last year it was in between races, and I know we did a little segment on Le Mans and
Yep.
drivers that had Formula One cards or F2 cards at any point. So I have actually, my friend, I have dusted that list off again. I looked at the early entry list. So I think there's 3 weeks in between before that kicks off.
We've got a little while.
In a few weeks here, we'll unveil our 2025 version of that. So if you really want to dig through your binders, dig through the boxes, the doldrums of the F1 collection that you've got, you might be able to get some extra eyes on some of these drivers.
Yeah, I feel like in general, just prepare for these non-F1 events like the Indy 500 and Le Mans and everything of, like you said, Brian, potential drivers that who know, they might win. And yeah, you can throw it on eBay and maybe get an extra few bucks than you would have otherwise. So, right now, tell you what, get those Schwartzman ready. I'd probably put him up because if he wins, people will want to buy it. So
rookie for Prema. They just put in their team this year, so good on them. Yeah. We're not here to talk about the Indy 500. We're not here to talk about Le Mans yet. We're here to talk grid gainers.
Bum, bum, bum,
bum. So anyways,
anyone that wants to make us a jingle, please.
Yes, please do. I mean, clearly we're really low budget.
You'll get a shout out every single time.
Absolutely. I think we've got that in the budget of our $0 budget here. Exactly. This is a perpetual losing money endeavor.
It's just fun.
It is fun. We would be having these conversations most anyways. And, shout out to the P1 Castle Legend Chat. You got me back in a few weeks ago. You're like, listen, Brian, the Castleites, they need you there.
Well, that's where the action happens.
Yeah, you're just like, there's so many grading questions and stuff that come up. I need you in there, buddy. And I was like, I just can't, like, with my ADHD, like all the little pings and stuff. I just like, it felt like drinking from a fire hose. And you're like, hold on. You sent me a screenshot. You're like, enable this little mute button at your leisure. Go in and just check in. So it's been so much better. I know we got our old friend Chris Letty in there as well. Even he did the same thing. He goes, dude, I can't keep up with this. And I was like, hey, do this. Scott told me to do this.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's great about the chat is like, listen, like it's great because we have so many people from the community that are in there. So if you have it open by chance and you're in there and you're active, you can be talking to dozens of people in real time. And then, yeah, if you need a break from a lot of stuff going on, constant stuff, if you're not in the chat, you don't want to constantly see stuff coming up. So yeah, just quick mute it. And then when you're ready to hop in, you can just scroll the bottom or see what people are talking about. But yeah, it's always fun. A lot of interesting chat going on in the P1 Castle Legends chat. I mean, from, what do people like to collect to what do people just pick up? What are big cards or affiliates hitting? And, Matthew Malar always sounding off on the Kimi Antonelli market. He's big. It's big. A lot of Kimi enjoyers out here.
I saw a couple finest cards go for some pretty good money on the Rated Rips consignment. I think a gold common went for like $120, I think. So
that's nice.
It's pretty good. Anyways, let's talk grid gainers. We just wrapped up Imola. Scott, you just said, like, as you just said, the first of the triple header. We're in Monaco this week. We will do a full preview of that next time out. And after that, Barcelona, which feels like the letdown after these other ones, but Imola. So we'll save a little bit of the Imola.
Barcelona catching strays out here.
It is.
This is actually the last time we're going to be in Imola.
Yes. And for me, I've mentioned it a few different times, Scott, on the podcast. Imola 2021 was the first race that I ever watched Formula One. Max took that one, Lewis second, Lando on the podium.
That was a wild race. That was a race that Lewis was down in like 15th or something. He was lapped, at that point. And then there was a red flag safety car because George Russell and Valtteri Bottas got into it a little bit in the car and out of the car. Red flag allowed him to unlap himself. And then, Lewis, amazing recovery drive, get back to second on that one. So, that was a really good race. One of the best, actually, I feel like. Imola generally not a lot of overtaking outside of turn 1 into Tamburello. It's tough.
Well, let's get into the grid gainers, Scott, and we'll go with your pick first. We got to talk about Max Verstappen.
Come on. So, listen, I think there's going to be times where we talk about Lewis, we talk about Max, we talk about Oscar, we talk about people that you're kind of expecting. But I feel like this is a perfect time to talk about Max for a few different reasons. And the first and foremost, I think, is by winning in Imola, I think Max has kind of really entered the World Drivers' Championship conversation. And not only because he had obviously a fantastic overtake in a turn 1, but the Red Bull pace after getting absolutely blown away last race, McLaren just destroying everybody. And it looked like, okay, this season is getting ready to be over. And it's a two-horse race. Red Bull was surprised how slow McLaren was. McLaren surprised how fast Max was. So I don't know. I mean, who knows what happens in these next couple of races? If Max gets 2 more wins, he might be leading the championship. But I think we can at least say that it is solidly a 3-way battle at this point. And I think we knew coming in, McLaren was going to be very strong. Obviously, Lando and Oscar were going to be the 2 main protagonists. But Max, you just kind of can't count him out in this era of Formula One, right? He is inevitable. And this was a really good performance by Max. I mean, he got the move done definitively in turn 1, 2, and then he really, the only other thing he had to do was get a really good getaway after the safety car, the late safety car, which he did. So Max, just phenomenal pace. And it brings me back to, putting him in as a grid gainer, because I think people are going to, everyone's been mystified. Everyone's been Oscar pilled, over the past few weeks, rightfully so, because he's doing a great job and he's got a really good chance at winning the championship, leading the championship right now. But I think people are going to be like, oh yeah, who's won the last 4 world championships? Who's pound for pound, car for car, probably still the best talent on the grid in Formula One? It's Max Verstappen. And I think that, a lot of his cards in recent history, everyone super hyped on Oscar, on Kimi Antonelli, et cetera, getting maybe left a little behind and leave some opportunities there. And I actually want to talk about, in my first card here, one of my target cards, is the 2021 image variation. So chrome in a PSA 10, pop 92. So under 100 of these chrome PSA 10s. Really, really love this image. Not often are horizontal cards sought after unless they have phenomenal imagery. And it actually reminds me of the 2020 card 179, Max Verstappen, where he's got his helmet, similar-ish type framing of the picture. And that's a very popular card in 2020. So you go to 2021, Image variation, obviously you can pick these up in Sapphire. The pad still hasn't been hit yet for those of you interested in a little 2021 Sapphire, but Max Verstappen looks great here. Get the helmet, the fist pump. It's a really visceral. I just love the image, and it's extremely affordable. 2021 is kind of like the redheaded stepchild, I feel like, of all years. And obviously a big reason for that is that we came into 2021 product drop with everything, not just F1, all sports, everything all-time high, right? Coming off of the, COVID pandemic kind of collectible boom. And then we had the subsequent crypto and economy crash, and everything came soaring down. I mean, there was a time I traded a PSA 9 orange sapphire Max Verstappen portrait for a 2021 Chrome case. Okay. Now, granted, at the time, those cases cost around $12,000. Now you can pick them up for $3,000. So boxes were over $1,000 at times. Same sapphire, even higher. So now the wax has, maybe 25% the price it used to be. And a lot of people are left kind of holding the bag a little bit with that wax, and, have bought into breaks, bought singles when everything was really high. And it's just, you're in this weird frame where you're like, well, I bought in so high. It's just tough to see the prices where they're at. So people just tend to ignore it and tend to just gloss over 2021. And I think that leaves a real opportunity for folks to get in on the cards they like. This happens to be one that I really like. Image variation, again, pop 92 at a PSA 10. I think it's a really good target card, and one that's really not gonna beat you up on the wallet. Um, as for the Grail card, this one will beat up your wallet or the mortgage on your house potentially. We actually have this card in person here. I've got it up on screen, but this is the Max Verstappen 2020 Super Fractor portrait. Graded a PSA 8. This one graded here by P1 Castle Grading, Q3 cards with the prep. And we actually both took it personally to California. Did the handoff, the walkthrough, got it done same day by PSA. So this is a massive card. Obviously, it's hard to comp something like this. You can look at recent cards that are maybe comparable. The only thing you can really look at is the pad Max Verstappen portrait, which sold for around 175,000. Generally, there's a premium, right, for superfractors on top of that. So this one is posted right now at 265,000 or best offer on P1 Castle Premium Consignment. So listen, if the Legends chat, if you guys all want to pitch in, couple $1,000, we could have a fractional share type ownership
Ooh.
thing here. But no, I mean, obviously listen, at the end of the day, this is a card that is not just a grail for your average collector. This is a grail for any collector. The Jeffs, the Shines, all of these massive collectors in terms of, the values of their collection, the cards that they target specifically. This is a card that is the top of even what they have in their collection, right? So, when you're talking about Formula One, especially when you're talking about Max Verstappen, this is one of his biggest cards of all time. I mean, you can point to maybe, the Superfractor Auto would be bigger than that. And, I've seen a couple Dynasty cards, at least one. There's the one of one jumbo Max Red Bull logo patch. I'd say that is probably a bigger card. This would probably be on par with the one of one Dynasty single patch Red Bull logo. I kind of put it right in that realm. And then the image variation from Sapphire, which of course hasn't been hit yet, but that would be another card where, you'd probably find some people that would prefer the Sapphire image variation. You'd find some people that would prefer the Superfractor portrait. So, I mean, it's a top 3 at best, top 5 at worst card in the world, and probably of all time for Max Verstappen. So absolutely massive. We have this one for sale. Like I said, P1 Castle Premium Consignment. We'll see where it ends up. I'm excited to go through the sales process. Obviously, this one was one that we hit And I feel like it's iconic, right? The Julian. I feel like
Hmm.
that's fairly iconic in the F1 hobby. Everyone knows. We pulled this December of 2023. Nice little Christmas present for Julian back in the day. We flew to Australia, went to the Grand Prix, delivered it in person, and then actually, you guys know I was in Australia just a couple weeks ago, and I was picking up this card among others to bring back and see what we can get for it. I'm sure whoever purchases it from us, we will be making another trip because again, this isn't a card that you generally ship anywhere. So yeah, we'll see where it goes, but beautiful card, happy, honored to be consigning it for Julian. And yeah, that is our grail for Max Verstappen. That's what I've got. And I don't know.
Yeah, just great pick. Just quick aside, like that was a masterclass move from Max on turn one. Oscar didn't even expect him to make that, and like you said, I think the pace, the way that the Red Bulls set up their car for the race, I think Max was going to try to make that move on turn one, and that's where they were hinging their results on because McLaren had set up their car for high downforce, and they were more concerned about the corners than they were about the top end speed on the straightaways, and because of that, they didn't hold the lead. That's where Max was able to, I feel like, get that advantage, and I don't think he necessarily ran away with it as much, but also this is why we race. This is
That's right.
why nothing is a guarantee, and as we'll talk about momentarily with one of our other drivers. I mean, Oscar with the extra pit stop and still got the podium. That did not work in their favor, and that late safety car made it even worse, and it negated all those early pit stops on the mediums.
Yeah.
But anyways,
No,
bravo, Max. I know I've got one of my Red Bull shirts on in honor
that's right.
of you got to respect. You just got to respect the greatness that he is. I mean, you love him or hate him, you've got to respect the game, and I certainly think that was a good pick. One quick aside too, again with the 2021 card, very good pick there. I'm not always the biggest horizontal card fan, but also little thing. I mean, this is from his first World Championship,
It's true.
2021. So this is image. I can't tell exactly. I was actually, you were talking. I was trying to figure out what podium it was on because you could see the podium in the background. I'm sure we could probably figure out what race that was from.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. Hmm. Yeah,
Let's
I
get
don't know.
AJ Hammer Time Hits on
Too
that.
bad.
He's
There we go.
he's like
Yeah, we need a
our
sleuth.
he's like our Watson to our Sherlock Holmes.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, but and the last point I'll make too, I think just in regards to the race, right? I think Max went into that move, braking really late, going in ready for a little bit of argy bargy, right? Like I think he was fully committed and like down to touch. Like if Oscar had really tried to keep the corner, like Max is there and Max is like, let's go. Like I will
Hmm.
take it. I think, and we've talked about it a little bit before with Lando, kind of, maybe he's playing along. I think Oscar this time, I think it was sensible. I think, like you said, I also think he didn't necessarily see him coming or expect it. He was worried about Russell, who had gotten a really good start behind him, and just wanted to kind of maintain that position. And it caught him out a little bit, and he just figured probably in that split second. Again, I mean, these are micro decisions you're making and instantaneously in real time. But I think he decided I'm not going to fight it because, what if he does? They get tangled, DNF, Lando wins. Then that is a scenario that Oscar would much rather not have happened. Right. He's okay with this, right? Recovery, drive off, whatever. He gets third. He loses 3 points to Lando and loses 10 to Max. That's fine. Damage limitation, as we say. But yeah, if he lost 25 points to Lando, that's no good. So
Speaking of damage limitation, my grid gainer pick. I think I picked Charles Leclerc a couple weeks ago, but seems an odd choice. But
yeah, talk to
there's
me.
there's a
Why Leclerc?
there's a method to the madness here.
Ooh.
Qualified 11th. Obviously, some setup problems for the Ferrari. Lewis 12th. Both of them out in Q2, did not make Q3, and
Bumped by the Astons.
bumped by the Astons, which they did pip them on race day.
Mhm.
Put some respect on this guy's name. Still fifth in the championship right now. He's got a ways to go to catch Russell, who's in fourth. But on merit, net fourth after starting P11. He was there. Now, Ferrari kind of did Ferrari pit stop strategy stuff. He ended up finishing sixth. And if they didn't leave him out on the tires there, I think he still probably would have finished in front of Albon and in front of Hamilton. He just has like all the talent in the world. And I think all of the broadcasts make him out to be kind of like whiny and complaining all the time. But the talent is just there. And if I still think he's the lead Ferrari driver. Come with your your pitchforks and torches on this one.
AJ, get him, AJ.
Get him. I
He's
just
coming
think you can't discount Leclerc, and I still think he's so marketable and so collectible. The Tifosi still love him, and he's going in, Scott, to his home track again in Monaco.
Mhm.
What does he have? 3 pole positions now after his
Yep.
one last year?
And finally a win.
And finally a win. I think, for my money, one of my favorite moments in watching Formula One since I started, like I mentioned, I only have started watching since 2021. So I've missed quite a bit. But Alex Jake's commentary of the final lap, just it gets me every time. You see all kinds of those highlights on Instagram a lot.
I think they could make a documentary specifically about him and Monaco, right?
Mhm.
All the heartbreak and heartbreak and heartbreak, and then that win. I mean, that would be good. That'd be a good documentary. I'd watch
I
it.
think he's in contention for. I still think he's in contention for pole, and I think he could if he gets pole. I mean, obviously he's going to be in contention for a race win. I don't think the Ferrari is that far off, and especially in Monaco, where qualifying you win the race on Saturday, and it's not always the best car. I think it's the driver that knows the track the best and is willing to extract every inch and centimeter out on the track right up against those walls, and he's proven time and time again that he has the talent to be able to do it. Now obviously a lot has to break his way, and like I said, Saturday's going to matter a lot here, but I still think you shouldn't be discounting Leclerc, especially with his cards at this point. Again, the flow chart, if there's 20 cards, that's where you're going. You want refractors, especially PSA 10, currently a pop 251, which actually doesn't compare to like the Maxes and the Lewis that are out there. I mean, obviously, he also has an image variation, the sitting one, which is a great card. But if you're looking for a grail, I mean, Dynasty, and especially Dynasty 2024, when we first had the vertical cards, have been huge, especially one like we've got on screen here, out of 5. Great autograph, tricolor patch, the striping from the Ferrari suit on his arm or shoulder, just chef's kiss, just great. I mean, you've got to get one of these in your collection if you're a Leclerc fan, and I just think that if he does well, I think he's right back in this thing, and he's got a long way to go to catch the top 3 at this point.
Yep.
But Ferrari just seems like I remember specifically, Scott, we were talking about Ferrari before Monaco and before Monza last year. And it's like, if they're not going to be in contention for the championship, whether it was constructor or driver, go for these milestone big marquee events. And Leclerc won both of them in Monaco
It's
and
true.
Monza.
And they somehow ended up at the end of the season being the main challenger for the constructors championship.
Mm-hmm.
No one saw that coming, through the first 7, 8, 10 races of the year. So they could come on strong towards the end. Long way to go. But I mean, to your point, I mean, if right now, he's a bit further away, could be a decent time to buy some of his cards. Not financial advice, but could
I
be a
think you
decent
take
time.
out that earlier DNF, and I think he's a lot closer there. So he's my
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah, for sure. And going back to what you said about the race too, I think really solid job by him to finish sixth. I remember when you initially said Leclerc, I was like, really over Hamilton? Just because Hamilton obviously came in fourth. But he did kind of get screwed in the strategy. And honestly, what really went wrong for Leclerc was in practice when they ran the hards. He was one of the only people to run the hards, and he didn't have two sets. So at the end there, when they were going to pit him right at the end of the safety car, all he had left was one set of softs. And he was, on the radio, like, hey, pit me. I want to pit. And they're like, all we have is softs. And he's like, oh, I want to pit. And they're like, it's 16 laps, Charles. like
Hmm.
the softs just don't last there because again, this is actually the first track that we've used the C6 on. So, at every race, there's hard, medium, soft, in terms of the hardest compound, medium, and then the softest compound at that track. But depending on the track you're at, it's a different compound. And this is the first race where the C6 is the soft compound. So they obviously degraded extremely quickly. That's why you saw even Aston and I think Russell, right, in Q3 on the mediums because the softs couldn't even necessarily hold on for an entire full lap unless you were managing them a little bit through the first two sectors. So yeah, it was just unfortunate all around, but really good job for him to come in sixth. I think ultimately the right decision too to kind of cede that place back to Albon because I think he was just
Hmm.
much fresher tires. And if he had, ended up copping a 5-second penalty, he could end up in seventh. So I think good decision there. And yeah, I like Leclerc. Listen, I think he's one of the most talented, especially in qualifying. And like you said, Monaco coming up could be his time to shine.
Another spicy pick here.
So we're cooking a little bit here. And last time out, was it last time out? Or maybe two times ago? I put Lindblad up as a grid gainer because he had just won his first sprint race. This time, we're going with another current F2 driver, but cards that you can get available of him besides Tops Now, F3. So this is Alexander Dunn. So Alexander Dunn currently leading the Formula 2 championship. He now has 2 feature race wins. Uh, the Irish lad has put in a phenomenal season. And again, this is his rookie Formula 2 season. And he is one of the best in the field for sure in qualifying, but especially in the race. He has had, and my boy Niall, Sports Cards UK 34, he'll back me up here. He's had a lot of races where he hasn't necessarily started, in the top 3 or so, but he gets there, man. He is great on managing the tires, pace, getting overtakes done quickly and efficiently. So yeah, he's just been on a tear so far this year, and now he is solidly in the lead ahead of Luke Browning. So I've got him here as a target. Um, so it's tough, right? When you're talking about a driver who's only in 2024 and as F3. So there's not a ton of cards to choose from. So you can either go really the products you're looking at, going to be Chrome, Sapphire, Finest. Um, I like looking at a refractor. We've got up on screen a PSA 9 refractor because it's a pop 2 with none higher. Now, I wouldn't say target a PSA 9, but what this means is if you're looking at a refractor portrait PSA 9 with none higher, there are no 10s. Go through, the refractors. If you've bought any all other F3 spots in the past, or if you're buying done now, because a lot of folks, myself included, haven't broken out, get those refractors graded if you think they got a chance. Because if you have a 10, you're going to be a pop 1. I'm sure eventually more and more will get graded, but it's going to be a low pop. And a PSA 10 refractor first year portrait, there's no rookie cards or anything like that for him. And there's no autos either because he's in F3 in the product. So I think that's a good place to be. As for a grail, I mean, realistically, you got to just look at, red or lower. We have on screen here the 1 of 1 superfractor that actually got hit, which is probably his best card. This is from Chrome, I would say. this is actually definitively his best card, because I would rank this above any of the supers you can get of him in finest, and I would rank it above the pad. So his best card possible is the superfractor. I know it got hit and it's in a collector's PC right now, so I don't know if this specific one will be available, at least at the moment. But this is a card you can aspire to. And yeah, I mean, obviously there's a ton of parallels in between that. That if you want to do a little prospecting, I mean, he is in the championship lead right now, but it's only after 4 race weekends for Formula 2, so still a long season to go for them. But if you believe in our boy from Ireland, then yeah, take a shot, and could end up with a nice payday at the end. Not financial advice, but yeah, Dunn is my guy here. What do you think?
McLaren Academy driver too.
Ooh, that could be spicy. I mean, if Lando and Oscar get into it a couple years and one of them is like, you know what, I'm done with this,
Mm-hmm.
Dunn could slide right in.
Dunn could make him done.
Yeah, if Lando's done, Zach may turn to Dunn.
These things just write themselves. Like, we literally
true.
have no agenda other than there's nothing written down. This is all off the top of the head. One take, everyone knows the rules. I like it. I do. I haven't been as interested in a lot of the F3 stuff. Obviously, now we've covered Dunn. You've covered Lindblad a couple times ago, but it's those standout now F2 drivers that you've got the opportunity to get one up on them.
That's right.
And you mentioned it. This is the first year that we had F3 portraits, or portraits, as they say across the pond, and certainly a lot of CAC cards with all of them as well, which hopefully Topps learns their lesson there. But yeah, no, I really like it.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, this is the first year that we had F3. So in years gone by, you wouldn't have any cards to buy of him right now, outside of, if there's a Topps now for a win or something that they make. And I don't know if he ended up getting one for his first win, or if they've made any others for him.
I doubt it. Usually they'll
Yeah.
do the F2 like champion, or
But didn't
something.
Lindblad get one? Didn't Lindblad get one?
He may have, yes. Now that you're saying
Yeah, he's
that,
more popular though. So I don't know. I mean, basically what I'm saying though is that this is the first year that you can prospect on a rookie F2 driver. In years gone by, you couldn't, because the
it was always
season
the
was
year
over,
after.
right? Yeah. So now is your time. I think it's really cool. It adds an engaging element to the F3 spot and all the spots that are broken out, right? I mean, I think, and listen, there's no autos, so they're not extremely expensive spots. I think most of these drivers, like even Dunn, it's like $15 for a case, right? So, it's a couple coffees, and you may end up with a future Formula 2 champion. Never know.
Topps, I know you're listening. Let's get going forward. Just, you don't have to call it Bowman, but I'd love a first appearance indicator.
So, question for you on that, because so we've talked about that, right? I think that would be amazing, a first. But how would you handle? So, for instance, say this year the product had come out and there's a first similar to the Bowman first logo icon that's on those cards. So, put it on the top right, put it wherever. It says a big first for Alexander Dunn right here. What do you do next year for his Formula 2 card?
It's not his first.
Okay, so that'll be interesting, because then it'll actually be Formula 3. But, well, would he get a first on his autograph? Because it's his first autograph.
I think it's strictly. I'm not a big Bowman guy. I
We
do
need
have people
Matthew
that
to weigh in.
Yeah, I get sent not a ton of baseball Bowman stuff. I do tell everybody I prefer to stick to Formula One, just because that's the cards I know, and I don't have to look up because there's so few sets. I know them like the back of my hand.
Right.
I don't know. I think it's usually the set, and because there's Bowman draft and Bowman regular, Bowman Chrome, and all those things. I think whatever set they end up showing up in first, that's considered their first. And then usually, I think the only issue with this maybe where they'll need to do autos in the same year, and we know that Tops didn't do F3 autos, and I think they
Yeah.
probably shouldn't. Maybe yet. Ooh,
Well, let me offer you this. They remove all of the cars and they add F3 autos. Do you take that trade?
absolutely, all
I'd
day.
take that trade.
Yeah, make it happen, Tops. All right. Speaking of making it happen,
Who you got?
my final pick, Isaac Hadjar,
The hedge.
the Hadge. I don't know what it was, Scott, but like they talked him up enough during this race and making it seem like Helmut Marko is actually would maybe prefer some days have Hadjar in the Red Bull and not Yuki. That seat is cursed. I mean, put
Might
some
be.
respect on Checo Perez's name at this point because he has been the only one to do anything. And speaking of like trying to just do something, Oscar Piastri pits, tries the undercut, has to go through traffic. They don't even hide it, Scott, to Yuki.
Uh,
Hold him up. He
As a good
couldn't even
teammate should.
hold, as a good teammate should. Checo would have put that big rear end out there and held Piastri up for
2021,
like
baby.
5 laps, probably. Yuki couldn't even hold him up for 2 corners.
Yeah, he made an error into the last turn before the straight, and it was just over.
It's just
'Cause,
gone. And
turned
I
down
mean, poor
momentum.
Yuki. All kidding aside about Yuki, I'm so glad that he was fine after that big crash, and it just proves that the halo works because anytime you flip the car and it flipped right back side up, and he walked away from that,
Impressive engineering.
especially at this track with the unfortunate
Mhm.
history that this track has. But anyways, Hadjar out results Yuki. He's below, just barely below Yuki in the standings, but he just seems like he's a cool character out there. I don't want to say him Oscar Piastri like, but I mean he just seems unfazed. I mean that first time out when his seat was giving him some issues. We have talked about that. We won't rehash that
It's
conversation for this
because he's
family
got
friendly show.
yeah, you know?
I think he's definitely one to keep an eye out for. And first year autos, F2 does have a first year auto in 2023 Topps Chrome
Yep.
and a PSA 10. There's a Pop 24. Now I know our friend G Myers has approaching 100 base Hadjar autos. I don't know how many of those are graded, but if you think about the number of F2 autos that a lot of the drivers signed in 2020, there's approximately about 450-ish. So you have to think that maybe they jumped it up to like 500, 550. I mean, he owns probably close to a fifth to a quarter of all the Hadjar autographs. So that's why
That's
there's only a
crazy.
Pop 24 of this CAD. But I mean,
Probably
definitely
owns
that's
20
where
of
you
them.
want to go. Especially the autograph's going to be more rare than a base refractor, but again, a pretty liquid card.
Yep.
There's not much grails out here because I mean he's been in 2023 and 2024. Again, you're looking at F2 cards. 2023 was the first appearance. 2024 would be his second year F2. He does have a rookie card, Scott, in Topps now, and a lot of the rookies had that first wave from Melbourne when they all got first appearance cards. I mean, that might be really something where you want to look at because that's technically unofficially his first rookie card. He's
Yeah,
in the Racing Bull suit. It's got the rookie card stamp on it, and on screen here we've got a 1 out of 5. I
it's a
believe
beaut.
these to be red and just a
Yeah,
beautiful CAD.
yeah. No, it's really nice. And to your point, it's got the rookie card stamp. It's his first card with the rookie card stamp. A lot of these tops now, first years have been doing really well. Especially Antonelli cards are going crazy. So yeah, I think listen, if he does eventually get the call up to Red Bull, now is the time to be grabbing his stuff. If you think there's a chance that he will get called up, and now granted, Yuki, I actually think had a pretty good race, to come from the pit lane to finish 10th. And Hadjar finishing just ahead of him. However, I think Hadjar actually was on track for like a 7th
Mhm.
before the safety car at the end kind of screwed him a little bit. So glad to see him still finishing the points. But yeah, I think he was on for P7, P8 at worst before
He
the
was
safety
he was
car.
mixing it up with his idol, Lewis Hamilton, for a good
Hmm.
chunk of the race.
Yeah. He's been doing a lot of battling with Lewis so far this year. Suzuka, we saw it as well. It's been cool to see. I'm sure he's gonna remember those battles for quite some time. But yeah, I mean, the V carb is not a bad car, and he seems to consistently get the most out of it, compared to his current teammate Lawson. And, even he was right there with Yuki. I think what's really, you know, I guess confidence inspiring to me about Hadjar is that race one, I remember I was telling everyone in the Legends chat to calm down. It's the guy's first race, give him a break, because everyone was ready to, send him back down to F2 after he crashed into the wall in Australia on the formation lap. But he has really bounced back from that. The perseverance to be able to fight through adversity, that's what you want in a Formula One driver, and to be able to deliver in the moment, even when you got big cojones and you're in pain, in qualifying, and he gets the job done. So I think Hadjar, yeah, great job, really good job by him to get in the points. I think we're going to see him in the points quite a few more times this year, and yeah, who knows? Maybe he gets the call up. If I could see a crazy. I mean, could you imagine the scenario if Yuki doesn't perform and Lawson's not doing well and they do a twofer? They put Hadjar up to Red Bull, bring Yuki back down, and then also bring Lindblad up. Just musical chairs over there, outside of Max Verstappen. No seat is safe in that organization. Unreal.
Very intriguing candidate to keep an eye on, and I think if he keeps pumping in results like this, he's definitely going to be continuing to be a great gainer.
That's right.
All right, let's flip the script here a little bit, and we are going to look at some big pulls in the P1 Castle. We haven't done
Mm.
this in a few episodes.
Yeah, it's
You've
been a
been
bit.
traveling everywhere and there,
It's
so you
true.
actually haven't even opened a lot recently. So, but man, you did it in a big way this past weekend.
Yeah, that's right. So we did a sapphire and finest mixer. A lot of fun. Really cool. Two products that I think mesh very well together. And one of the spots that sat, again, this guy gets no respect.
If it
George
sits, it
Russell.
hits.
It sat. F1 Ben came in and said, listen, I'll, give you $2. I had to take no, but he got it at the discount because it was sitting for a while. And yeah, we ripped Sapphire. Well, we're going back and forth. We're doing some Sapphire, we're doing some, finest back and forth. On screen right now, we hit a red Sapphire helmet collection of George Russell. Absolutely monster CAD to hit there. And then I don't know the order we're in here, but what do we got for the next one? Sure enough, the next, I think it was like a few boxes later when we got back to finest, Superfractor, autograph, starting grid signatures of none other than George Russell. So talk about a break for one specific driver. I mean, absolutely went nuts on it. By the way, our superfractor streak is well and truly broken because we went down to AA Mint. We did like a cleansing, down there, pulled 3 superfractors out of 2 cases, came back up. First finest case we ripped, 2 superfractors. We hit this George Russell. We also hit a Dennis Hauger rare portrait. Yeah, come on. Get
House
at
of
me.
Hauger.
That was pretty big. Yeah, there you go. House of Hauger. But yeah, so this was a massive card, both of them for Ben. A discount spot. Absolutely insane. So congrats to Ben on those.
Actually,
And then the
both happen to
last
be over my shoulder right
oh, a
now.
little Pullman Castle grading. Nice. Well, hopefully they both do well. I know they're in the best hands possible. And then we also ran a 2-box of 2020 Sapphire. And this was actually ran when I was in Australia. Live in Australia. It was late evening time, like 8 o'clock for folks back here, but it was like morning. It was like 10 a.m. or something when I was running this. We ran 2 boxes of Sapphire from Steelcase. Nicholas Latifi helmet,
One of the big 7.
pad. Nah, yeah, almost. But yeah, the GOAT, we hit a Goatifi, pad Paraja. This one for Jeff, who was on the Williams spot. So yeah, that was really fun. I was like, it was funny because Ben was there with me. F1 Ben was there in the room, and we're ripping it, going through. We'd hit some decent cards, whatever. And I'm just like, pad. And he's like, no. I was like, pad? For real, pad? And it'd been a while. I mean, it's been a while since I pulled a 2020 pad. So it's cool to see. And it was vertical. It was Williams. We were really hoping for the George Russell portrait, but listen, we'll take it. One we got Montreal coming up in a month about, so we got one of the Canadian goats. But yeah, so those are 3 of the biggest hits that we've had recently in the castle. And then we've also had some pretty big solds in the castle. And this one on screen, and actually, as I'm realizing this, actually, I don't know if this is the right card because, and this is not your fault. This is my fault. But so we sold a chrome red Kimi Antonelli auto. On screen. We have a sapphire, but it's actually a chrome for 7,000. So shout out to Machado for consigning that through the P1 Castle, and congrats to Daz Jack, actually, from Hall of Fame Collection, for picking this one up. Massive card. First year, Kimi Antonelli, red chrome auto. So I'll have to commission Ben to do that one again. And then we've got the Lando Norris 2022 1/1 flag patch jumbo dynasty card. Oh my God, this is beautiful. This sold for 9,500. Big pickup for Northwoods. So yeah, this one, I mean, I love these cards. And while it's funny because we sold a Lando Norris 2024 vertical jumbo flag patch for a very similar amount. And I actually like the look of the vertical jumbo more, but there are technically 2 of them, right? With the different poses. This is the only one from 2022. There's no multiple flag patch 101. So yeah, really cool card here. Congrats to Northwoods. Massive pickup on this Lando. And yeah, nice steal for under 10. And then the biggest card of the year that we have sold so far, this one was another one. Again, you see it right over here because we hit this one in the castle back in November of 2023 during the first reiteration of the Vegas race. We did a Chrome, Sapphire, and Dynasty, all 3 2020 case breaks. And Julian again had the Mercedes spot and hit a 2020 Dynasty flag patch out of 4 Lewis Hamilton. This one we sold for 65,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty big considering the max. I think most recent max sold for around 30. So this went for double. So nice little P1 Castle premium consignment premium. And yeah, congrats to the new owner. I'm actually going to be flying out to see them in a few weeks to drop this card off. So really big one for their collection. So Maxi, congrats on the new card. And yeah, congrats, Julian, on the sale. And we're working on selling this one next.
I'll start the layaway plan.
There you go. Listen, we'll set you up $1,000 a day. Be paid off in no time.
Yep. I do like the fractional ownership idea. It was funny how that was like a big thing, like what, 4 or 5 years ago, where
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of
that
people were
you'd
into
have to
that.
make like a group decision on,
Yeah, that's tough.
selling. Like you
Then
have
you
to.
get
It's
someone who
almost
gets like
like.
majority ownership, and then it's I don't
Anyways,
know.
that
I
that
could
like.
also I could cut it up into 265 pieces.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Uh,
No, we won't.
and I won't rehash, but like last time out, I think we talked about the card last time out, and regardless of, I know it'll find a good home,
Oh,
but it's just also one of those things too. Is like you talk about the story behind a card, and I still think it's so. I just think it's so cool that both you and I, Julian, Ben, everybody is kind of part of the history of that card, and that is something
yeah.
I will never forget. I won't, from the entire process about it. Actually, I still remember the phone call from the next day. I was getting ready to go out and play tennis, and you're like, we got to talk, and I was like, oh, okay. And yeah, the whole thing. I don't remember much. I'm getting old. My birthday's next month, and uh, actually, it's funny. D2 always mentions this all the time. I guess myself, Sports Card Yoda, and Rudy Parazer F1, we're all have a birthday within like a few days of each other. We're all
It's true.
Geminis. So I guess you've got to be
Gemini's getting gems, right?
Gemini's getting gems. Oh, we got to get that on a t-shirt.
Do a tri collab.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
that's
got to be
awesome.
a special kind of a OCD to be able to prep cards.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, I think what's awesome about like the card in general is, ultimately, like, wherever it lands, right? Whoever ends up picking it up, that story exists, right? Like, this isn't a card that was just pulled somewhere that no one ever saw and then it ends up on Golden or something, right? Like, this is a card that made history in like the F1 card community back in December of 2023. Like, it was the biggest card in forever that had been pulled live in a stream. That's what's so cool about breaking. I know some people don't love breaking. It's not for everyone, right? But what's awesome about it is that community aspect. You don't have to be on the spot. You don't have to be the one getting the card to be a part of the moment. And I'm working on hopefully some ways to kind of further that experience, to be part of that moment, without necessarily having to shell out all the cash for the spots or the cards themselves, because it just really is cool. That story. I mean, so many people shared that, and I obviously don't have that account anymore, so I don't have the original footage. And it had over 120,000 views on that full like reel of the poll. I mean, it was wild. And it was a big part of our history here in the P1 Castle, and a big part of my, breaking journey. Obviously, the biggest card Julian's ever hit in a break, the biggest card I think that has been pulled live in the F1 community and in recent history. We never got to see the Super Lewis get pulled, Super Lewis Auto Max. Like, none of those cards got pulled live on a stream. So I think it is, one of, if not the biggest card that's ever been pulled live. And it's cool to just be a part of that, right? And obviously, super thankful and grateful for Julian to be trusting me with the consignment of the card. Hopefully we'll, get a good sale, and it'll have a happy ever after story. And then, it's part of someone else's collection. But the story of, kind of where it came from and all the people that got to witness that moment or go back and relive that moment, or, be a part of the grading journey, and everything about it. Just really cool. And it's one of the reasons I love doing this.
Amen. Indeed. All
Amen,
right.
brother.
Amen. All right. We're coming up on the 1 hour
Sneak
mark.
under an hour. Not bad.
We did say this is probably on the shorter side. when we set out on this episode 52 journey, but now we're approaching an hour, and it's pretty clear that we just love yapping
It's true.
and about yapping about Formula One.
The Yap Castle.
Yep.
as
All
they
right. What do you
call it.
got? What do you got coming up, Scott? In the
So
castle.
coming up, actually today. Wow. So this is cool. So today, as of the time when this drops, right? We're recording it Monday night, but it's coming out Tuesday. So Tuesday today, I'm actually going to be on Fanatics Live at 1 p.m.
Ooh.
doing some finest random team. So if you need to break up the workday a little bit, hop in. Just a couple boxes, kind of talk a little F1 about Imola, what's coming up in Monaco, and open a couple of finest boxes, break up the day. Want to try to get in the habit of doing some midday streams. And then tonight I'm running 2 cases of finest, and I think we have about 10 spots or so left. So hop in. If you're looking to get in, we can get some discount. Last time, little discount mojo, closeout mojo on the Russell did pretty well. So yeah, hop in on one of those. And then coming up in the future, we've got our big Dynasty repack, which with an extra card added in as a secondary chase. That one's to be posted up later this week. So looking forward to that. And yeah, that's it's about all we got on the plate for right now.
We'll be. You can count me in for tuning in during my workday to
Sweet
talk some cards. Love fine.
it.
I'm a big fan of Finest. I've mentioned it every time out since release day, and we've had a chance to talk about it.
It's true. And that reminds me. So I think we're going to try to sneak in a second episode this week. We'll be talking about the Imola Pick'em and the upcoming Monaco Pick'em, and our predictions and everything. But once we get through this, kind of triple header where we're going to have a lot to talk about, a lot of grid gainers, a lot of pick'ems, I'd love to do a product ranking with you, because I feel like we're going to have some different opinions on that. So
what year? All years?
This year, just this year. No, I think we could do it for other years as well, but I think we start with the current year. Start with 2024. So no lights out either. Just 2024 products now that it's done, right? Like we've hit the end of the 2024 cycle. 2025 product has come out and lights out. Any other products that get released later this year, they're all going to be 2025, right? So now that we've got the full picture and we've had Finest for I think long enough now to make an assessment, I think we should do a ranking.
We should. Also, in the comments down below, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that fun YouTube stuff. Smash the like button down below. So one of the other things that Scott and I've been thinking about talking about, especially probably during the F1 summer break, is get some evergreen content out there. Types of things that are for newer collectors. So we do this. We love this. We have been with F1 cards since the beginning, so we know a lot. I don't want to take for granted that what we talk about, everybody knows exactly what we're talking about. So if you'll see, sometimes I'll actually stop Scott and say, okay, well, when you're saying PC, what does that say? Personal collection, stuff like that. Kind of almost like a how-to, like, how do you get started? How's the best way to go about going? Breaks, grading, just kind of like a whole bunch of like mini episodes with the different types of topics. And so if you have something in particular you'd like us to cover in one of those specific short form episodes, definitely let us know, because I want to try to make sure we've got enough things covered, and we're here for every type of collector. If you're brand new to the hobby, you're brand new to, maybe you've been a long time Formula One fan, but you just finding out that there's Formula One cards, anything, maybe you were in the beginning in 2021 when 2020 was the only product out, but then you stepped away for a couple of years, and now you're coming back. You're like, what did I miss? That's what we're here for. So let us know.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. And I think, during those episodes, we'll kind of ixnay on the yap say at the beginning. We'll just get right into the topic at hand. Try to keep it 10 to 12 minutes, I think.
Yep.
Nice. Little
See,
bite
attention
size.
span for most young adults and old adults like me.
I think you mean seconds on that one. But yeah.
We'll have to have the Queen help us with some TikTok. I refuse to put that on my phone.
Well, Brian, you got to do the one where, you know, they have a stretcher and they're carrying him out and they roll him and drop him. And then you got to throw yourself on the ground and then pop up and be like, you looking to grade your cards? Well, you know, and that's your hook.
Next time I visit the castle, I'm gonna have to get some tips from the queen. So, all right, now we are officially over the 1 hour mark. I think it's time for the catchphrase.
All right. Well, again, guys, we just had Imola. We've got Monaco coming up. We're going to have a second episode later this week, so make sure to tune in. But in the meantime, collect your cardboard, keep it carbon.